my name is Vincent Roasted Chavez. I'm a producer here at Black Label Music, and today I'm going to be talking with Hank Donato, a producer, composer, and musician from the Twin Cities. So, to start, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from and what you do?
Okay, so I'm Hank Donato, and I live in St. Paul now, and I do different kind of music adjacent things for a living, including sync licensing composition. So I do a little bit of like piano tuning. I do some like podcast editing production. Still doing some like writing, actually like typing writing, not writing music, but I that's kind of my main thing is composition and production. That ties everything together under all the things I do.
And so, what's your background with music? How did you start, and how did you develop as a musician over the course of your life and your career?
So my parents, both my parents both had a really deep love of music, but neither of them were really into anything too contemporary. And so for the first 10 or 12 years of my life, it was all, I was soaking up a lot of classical music from my mom, and then for my dad, a lot of 50s, 60s, 70s classic, rock and songwriter stuff. And which wasn't really an issue until, middle school hit and people were listening to the current cool new music. And I realized I don't have any experience there. I thought this was the cool music. But that's kind of the background that I come from. Is my mom was a piano player for a long time and really wanted to kind of instill that in me. So had me take lessons. That's kind of my primary instrument still, and playing a lot of piano, doing a lot of that classical sheet music reading route, which I have not held on to nearly as much as I would want to. But started with that, and then basically in middle school and high school really got into learning about the aspects of songwriting with multiple parts and with other friends. So kind of formed different bands during that time. Where I would sing and play some guitar, some piano. And let's see, that kind of all in high school, I don't know what exactly sparked it. It was just kind of like, being bored on the computer and opening up GarageBand for the first time, because I was just like, I was looking for something to do during the summer, I think, and I realized okay, I'm able to basically create a band or create my arrangements in a really detailed fashion. So in high school, I kind of, just taught myself production a little bit more and infused some of, my interests in classical music and contemporary, rock music. And then in high school, very much so hip hop. So I produced for, rappers and singers that I knew in high school. And that kind of formed a community of other musicians around me that I was able to learn from, and just kept playing. And in college, I met people who were great singer-songwriters and played with them.
So, were you in a lot of different bands?
Yeah, lots of different bands. It was hard to say no. I'm kind of that guy that's just saying yes to too many things and too nice to say no to people. So ended up saying yes to a lot of projects that, burned me or were just exhausting. But at the same time, it really helped me connect to people with a lot of different musical interests and backgrounds and genres. So I got to, produce and learn along the way, just self teaching myself how to do that, how to work with hip hop artists, rappers, and whatnot. And that would all just kind of be with a limited amount of whatever I could accumulate as a high schooler, which wasn't anything fancy, but got the job done. And in college, I just kept on playing more keyboard and singing in bands. Wasn't ever primarily really a writer. but I really, continued to do a lot of instrumental stuff when it came to, either pop songs or I would get involved with doing a score for a friend's short film or something like that. And then, sound design for little commercial things just from word of mouth. And that kind of got me into the circle of people who were doing licensing and composing for that, who recommended that, like I have a good background in different genres and how to make that sound believable from a producer's point of view. So yeah, in high school, I played with this band. I started this band called John, Chuck, and the Class, and I was the class. I was the production element, and my friend was a singer and rapper, and that was kind of my first like big exposure to the Minneapolis music scene, and that was a great learning experience because I went into it as just this young I don't know, young inexperienced high schooler who was just like I don't know, I love hip hop but I still don't feel like I know how to make it. I kind of feel like I'm just stumbling my way through and feeling imposter syndrome very intensely. But meeting people who felt the same way, felt like we're just trying to make something that sounds unique to us and that sounds good to us. Don't worry about how it might stack up to your influences or whatnot quality wise, because first you have to be true to yourself when you create music. So yeah, so that was kind of that launching project, which got me into a few other playing with other bands. That was kind of a big part of my career from like 2015 to 2019 or so. I was playing with a lot of different groups. I might as well just kind of list them off. Radio Church, Jessica Manning, John, Chuck, and the Class, Ben Noble, Goon Tribune, Sweet and Lonely, Luke Enyart. 2019, I was like, was able to quit my part-time job because I was gigging so much. And I really was like, this could only go up. And then of course, March of 2020 happened and shut me down very quickly. But in 2019, I got connected with Lance Conrad because my band, John, Chuck, and the Class, had won a demo contest, essentially, with his studio, Humans Win. And we got to have some production time with him. And through seeing his process and learning how he produces and his interests, he recommended that, different sync projects that he was involved in, or recommending me to different licensing libraries. So I started doing work around 2017 or 2018 for that, and then 2019 I started an internship here at Black Label, and spent about 3 months making all sorts of whatever was in my mind at that time, and using cool space and cool instruments and cool people to make stuff that sounded great to me at the time. And so yeah, I guess doing sync licensing and making different genres of music for different commercial projects is really just an extension of admiring the different approaches in songwriting and instrumentation of different genres, being interested in that, and how that all works together to create a song that sounds cohesive and is interesting.
And are you originally from Minnesota?
Yeah, grew up in Blaine, so suburb, I guess. Yeah, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, Blaine.
So where did you go to high school, and did you go to college as well?
Yeah, I went to Spring Lake Park High School, and then I went to Bethel University, which is in Arden Hills. So stayed in the North Metro. I didn't venture out, but in college I went to I did this study abroad program in Nashville. So I don't know how studying abroad really applies there, but abroad statewise. And there I got to basically the program was bringing in 30 or 40 students to handle the production, the artistry, songwriting, and business end of putting together a tour. So basically, the whole semester was all about writing and performing songs, perfecting those in studio, and then finally taking those on a tour for about a month at the end of the semester. And that experience really solidified, like, yeah, getting into the technical bits of production is super useful, and you want to know, what your equipment does so you can use it to the best of its abilities. But really, where I felt my strengths lay were in creating interesting melodies, creating unique sounding instrumentation and arrangement, um, and kind of leaning into that. And then learning how the equipment works along the way. So yeah, and then also just the people. Like I think sometimes production can come off as a lonely kind of profession or a way to spend your days, but when you collaborate with the right people and you have people who trust your vision and how you make music, and they're great at what they do, they can add a lot, and it's just always more than the sum of its parts when you work with people. So try to do that still. Try to, play around and play with a lot of different groups as much as I can. And now I have my main focus right now is my own band called Beamer, and we put out an album in June, and gonna keep going with that. Gonna see, what it was kind of nerve-wracking to kind of finally put my voice at the center of songs, but I think I'm really proud of what we've done, and we're gonna keep on going in that project.
So you've worked for a lot of different sync licensing companies. So what's that experience like for you?
Yeah, so I've worked with, first getting into that world, started working with, agencies that had an interest in developing a specific, um, it's pitch specific projects. So they were more detailed instruction wise when it came to what they wanted from their client. And from there, I kind of started moving into like, more open-ended, like library companies, and some online platforms like Storyblocks and MusicBed, MusicVine. Um, and so I guess, starting out with that, but then also working with the more personal. Let me try to phrase this better. I feel like for me at least, a kind of a palpable difference between working uh, with someone who is actually talking with their client for a specific project, and one that is just kind of open ended, and you don't exactly know why or why not your music is going to get accepted, and if it will be even used or not. I prefer the former. There are companies in town that I've worked with, In the Groove, Black Label, and Grey Ghost, and Humans Win, Sing Stories, I guess now. And I just really prefer talking back and forth with someone about what the client wants, because um, it doesn't so much put me. I need a little bit of, of direction to get me going, but not too much direction so that it like squashes the creativity. So for me, that's what works. That's what works best. I love talking to people about what this client has done in the past, actually hearing the portfolio of what this client wants, and then having certain points in the production that I'm like, I need to have this. Okay, then what could, working backwards almost from like the client wants this kind of instrument in the production. How do I build a sound around that? It's more fun for me and more inspiring to have that kind of puzzle piece, um, like strategy going into it. So that's, I guess, kind of talking about my preferences between things. Um, yeah. So I will, in the future, going forward, I'm trying to kind of still cultivate that more pitch centric model of doing music. I really also just love the people personally that I get to work with. I really admire their expertise and their knowledge of the industry. It's been really helpful. They've been very open handed too about what they've learned and how to bring me along in that. So that's kind of where my preference lies, is with people rather than, big platforms that curate music. So um, yeah, I think one of the things that I really specifically enjoyed about Black Label, and still do when I work on projects with Ken, is the fact that he is just as much a musician as he is a marketer, and a let's see, he's just as much a musician as he is a a curator for clients. Like, he knows, what will sound musical, from my perspective, just as much as he will like work within the constraints that the client has, which can sometimes be kind of unreasonable. But from like does that make sense, musically point of view. So he's really good at being able to communicate, how to thread that needle, how to accomplish both the specifics that the client wants, but also getting a mix that's clear and makes sense musically. So another thing was, when I was doing the internship, um, Ken was very, the space at Black Label was really conducive to my creativity. Um, Great tools, and then also I was just able to, walk in and ask a specific question or ask a very broad question about the licensing industry, that would, help me uh, help me curate these sounds and kind of harness them into the best they could be to present to a client. So I really liked, that was probably the most like personal touch I've experienced from a licensing agency. Um, Others, I like that there's such a there seems to be like a strong presence in the Twin Cities for that, in this industry, and um, and but it's not big or intimidating in the way that, yeah, someone will know someone else from another company that does the same thing. And at least from my point of view, it's not contentious. It's, very understanding, and uh, that kind of coordination really lifts up the composers and producers in this area too. Um, and so I feel like, talking with other friends and people who work in other parts of the country doing the same thing, they are much more reliant on kind of the nameless, faceless people that work for big platforms. And I'm just grateful that I've been able to plug into more personable um, companies here in the Twin Cities.
And what is your favorite mode of playing? Do you prefer playing in bands, playing solo, or like just recording instruments and playing in the studio?
It's a great question. I really, over the past couple years since the pandemic hit, I've realized, beforehand I was playing with, maybe 9 or 10 bands regularly, and I it kind of got to a point in my personal like capacity for doing that where I was kind of just enjoying that less and less. It kind of got to, you do something often enough, and then you realize the things that you can't change that are annoying to you, or the little, you get on someone else's nerves because you play with them so much. And the pandemic hit, and for a little bit I was like, oh, actually kind of nice to just like get the things done that I've wanted to get done for a little bit personally. So I created I wrote an album in 2020 and released in 2021 that was just piano music, just solo piano music, that I wrote, and uh, so no other instrumentation behind it. And that was kind of an exercise in like, keeping my ideas cultivated, and um, trying to make a big my ideas of how a big full band arrangement, song would sound like in just a solo piano form. So I'm glad I did that. But on the other side of it, I kind of realized that a lot of the thing that makes me so inspired to pursue music in some way, shape, or form as a career rather than just a hobby is the fact that I love the people. And so I got to be, I think, like a lot of people, kind of lonely and ready to jump back into playing live with my friends in 2021 and 2022. And so when that returned, I kind of, you know, told myself like I'm going to play with people, not just for the money or for whatever perceived experience. I'm going to play with them because they're great people first and foremost, and they respect what I do and what I have to contribute to playing live. So I would say that's probably my favorite mode is playing live with other people, and many different people. But right now, I play with this group of guys who some of them I've known and played with in other bands for a long time, and now coming into this and saying, I've seen you as a side person for so long, but you're the expert in your instrument, and uh, I don't want to tell you to what degree you should play my part versus what you think. I want you to decide what's best for the song because I trust your decisions and have seen you in those situations. So I love kind of being more open-handed, the aspect of being more open-handed with coming to people with songs or ideas um, and realizing, some decisions would not be decisions that I would make, but I trust that um, someone else has something great and interesting to say, and I would rather go that direction than have 100% control over what something sounds like. So, and yeah, playing live also has an element of unpredictability, which I actually really like. With my band Beamer, we don't use any tracks. We've kind of made that our goal is to play, big arrangements, but play them as live as possible, with as little pre-recorded elements as possible. So, and what that does is, kind of a creed we've made, or unspoken agreement we've made in playing live is that you don't have to play the same part twice. Enjoy the fact that the song has a structure, and we recorded specific parts at one point in time, but that can change and shift as we play in different environments, and we get used to these songs over time. You don't want to be playing. You hear about like one hit wonders from the 80s and 90s who hate playing their one hit over and over again, which is understandable. But when you play anything enough, you just get so, I don't know, you just get jaded, and so to avoid that proactively, I've kind of just said like let's kind of leave it up to chance, and I also really like something that I really try to incorporate into live shows is comedy, the humor and that unpredictability too. So I will ramble, much like I am now on stage when I think of things, and kind of let that shine through. And that's also a part that I really missed, was like connecting with people through humor. You can't really do that on a live stream. You can see some comments, but like definitely not the same. Comedy is all about timing. So being there and being live will always trump doing anything pre-recorded for me.
Okay, so you're saying that during the pandemic, when you had to sort of be more on your own, you realize the importance of collaborating with others, and that you don't necessarily have to be like 100% in control of the song, and that having some balance is important. Is that right?
Totally is a balance, and it is for efficiency's sake, for licensing, or for getting a cohesive idea out in a shorter amount of time. Yes, it makes sense to be well-rounded, be able to do a lot of things yourself and make a full arrangement of a song yourself. That said, I think that you can notice from 60s, 70s, 80s, now coming into the digital age in the 2000s, 2010s, 2020s now, seeing I hope my assessment of this is accurate, but I feel like there are less and less multi-person bands, or like less, larger bands, at least the ones that have a national prominence. It's great that, technology and the music industry has changed in a way that's allowed people to make music from home, relatively affordably, and people making music from front to back with no one else's help allows just their vision all the way through from beginning to end to shine through, which is great. Um, but I'm just learning about myself. Um, Me personally, I I love saying, like, I want you to challenge me on this idea. Like, the crowd will, I trust the crowd more than I trust myself when it comes to my perspective on a song. Even if I'm really precious about a song or an idea, I will send it off to someone else first, and maybe I incorporate the idea, their opinion on a change or not. But hearing that helps me get a more objective perspective on how other people will hear this music.
Yeah.
And I don't have to, make a song that pleases the masses, but I have that ability. But then I can decide with one idea uh, how one track, or how singularly visioned, if that makes sense, of an idea is, rather than just like, or whether to make it, kind of crowdsourced, and like have a lot of other people's input shine through in the song. So having that variety is really important, and I would always rather um, tell someone no on their opinion than have no opinion at all from someone else.
Okay, so what's the best show that you've ever experienced? Like, what has been your favorite live music moment?
Yeah, one a big influence nowadays for me, and then I saw recently, I think in the spring, was this artist Andy Schaaf. Big influence for me. Very storyteller-esque singer-songwriter. I'm not really into the, old folk country storyteller type music usually, but his music and his arrangements are so intimate and interesting to me, in a way that, like, keeps me, I am, it's fun to feel like a super fan again. Like, I had that energy and passion about bands when I was a teenager. And then, you get into music, you work in music, you're like, oh yeah, that's that person's shtick, that's that person's strengths or whatever. But seeing someone who you're just like, that, I didn't know someone could have that original idea, and like go a different direction with that, is incredibly inspiring. So I saw Andy Schaaf at the Cedar Cultural Center a few months ago, and he had a big band. He had like 7 or 8 people on stage, but he's known to be just a very quiet, kind of shy person, even as a front man. And that was, the whole performance was, big lush arrangements like you hear on his records live, but the volume, I think even, the mixing engineer he brought along, played everything in a quieter volume, and even in a biggish place like the Cedar Cultural Center can feel sometimes, it felt so intimate, and like I've never heard a crowd that was, so hyped up in between songs be so quiet during songs, like throughout an hour and a half set. So that was a really inspiring show that I've seen lately.
Cool. And is there anything that you're really excited about in the future or in right now in your life? This could be music related or not. Just what are you super excited about and super happy about?
Yeah, let's see. My wife and I we have a son that we I don't know am I tripping up on this phrasing? We had a son. We have a son that she gave birth to. We gave birth to. We have a son that she gave birth to November of this past year. So he is 9 months old now. And it's been, I've written a song inspired by just like seeing the world through his eyes, and like all the things you take for granted that you see in everyday life, how interesting they can be when you like, focus on them enough and just, yeah, see them in a new light, like I'm seeing him experience. And so when it comes to having that childlike passion and creativity, kind of wanting that to return to me, having him, on a day-to-day basis around me has been really inspiring to, it's a lot of work, with kid, but it's been fun to imagine, like, okay, how is he gonna, um, what kind of art is he going to be into? What kind of passions is he going to have? And seeing that, so, like the whole world open to him on that, uh, has been really, really cool for me to see. So I'm just excited to watch him grow up and be a part of that. And also be, I'm nervous to, like, oh, your dad works, works in music. And so, like, yeah, you have that thing of like, okay, as like my mom did, is she going to, am I going to feel the push to get him in lessons, or start playing something, an instrument or something? But right now I can say that I kind of just want to like live my life and show him that I'm passionate about music and creativity. And if that influences him to go into science, politics, art, whatever, I just hope that that passion carries through. I think that's kind of like the main thing that I'm learning to cultivate in my day-to-day life, and I hope that rubs off on him a little bit. So
Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, my name is Vincent Rosa Chavez. This is Hank Donato. Please check out his music on the Black Label Catalog, and also just go find him on social media. Thank you guys.